Fantastic. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for this lunchtime networking session. My name is Jocelyn Henryshaw. I'm a change manager within the Corporate Portfolio Office at NHS Health Education England. Just to prompt you, obviously I am sharing my screen at the moment, so you'll be able to see the game code, which I'll leave up just while we do intros, and then I shall take back down. Sophie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, hi everyone, I'm Sophie. I work at Health Education England and I'm on the graduate scheme in the Corporate Portfolio Office.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so the purpose of this session, obviously they're very much focused on the engagement, liaising, getting to know each other ultimately. So going forward, you know, there may be opportunities to collaborate, network, etc. So we're really focusing on those particular types of challenges, the barriers that you may have within your own organisations when it comes to actually applying change management and really embedding it into kind of like your organisational cultures and values and behaviours, just so you know what you're trying to do can then be achieved and also sustained. And hopefully there'll be people on the call today who may have been through what what you're trying to do at the moment, who can offer up some advice, maybe even a little help and support, if they've got that capacity to do so. So to begin with, I'm just going to do a couple of polls just to try and tease out kind of who we've got on the call in terms of your current roles. In the meantime, just whilst I'm loading those up, if you can please pop in the chat who you are, your role, kind of which organisation you work for, that would be fantastic. And then everybody on the call can kind of get to see who's here and who they might like to connect with if there's anything that you've got in common. So I'm just going to load up these polls now, which hopefully won't take too long. There are a good number of people on the call today, so it'd be can have some good conversations between us. Okay. Should be launching the first question now, so it should just pop up on your screens. It's all anonymous, so really basic question to begin with. What type of role do you currently have? So is that related to kind of P3M, so looking at project management, etc. Is it more change management focused? Potentially you've got to wear both hats, so you cover both of those disciplines, or you've got a completely different role, which would be neither. So if you could just pop your results in there, and then give everybody a minute, and then I'll just pop up the results of that so we can see. And just out of interest, if you don't have a role that's kind of related to project or change management, if you can pop in the chat what that is, it would be really interested to find that out. And also be good having these conversations. You may have knowledge about the disciplines regardless, or the changes that have occurred in your organisation, which we can learn from. Fantastic. Just wait for a couple more responses. Excellent. Just going to have a look at those. So we've got the majority of people, P3M, so that's project, programme or portfolio management, so that's 32%. In fact, that's just now equalised to both of the disciplines. So that's interesting to see that obviously people do have to wear that dual hat role. And then we've got 20% at change management and 16 at neither. So that's great, thank you very much. And we're just going to go to the second poll, which should have popped up now. Do you think your organisation, or do you think change is managed well in your organisation? So I know this may be dependent on the type of change, but generally speaking, yes, more often than not, do you think it's managed well? Sometimes, so kind of ad hoc maybe. No, do you think there are improvements that your organisation can make? Or don't know, maybe you're not involved or haven't got any experience, or you might be new. to the organisation. So again, if you can just pop your responses in there, and then we'll just feedback those results that come in. Fantastic. Yeah, so as I say, I mean, these responses may depend on the particular type of change that you're trying to undertake or the people involved. Maybe it's the actual sponsor of the change. You may have somebody who's better at that type of role than others. But we've got a vast majority of 56% who've come back as sometimes. So again, that's quite interesting and positive. So there are kind of a little room for improvement there mainly. So we've got 18% at no, not really, and 15% at yes, mostly. So we kind of be really teasing out those people who voted yes, mostly, to maybe learn about what you're doing, how you're going about it, so that, you know, we can always try and reach that level that you're already at. And maybe there may be things that other people are doing that would help you as well in your role for that. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much for doing those. So next up, we're going to bring up a slide here, which we've prepped. And Sophie, I'm going to let you cover this, if that's okay.
Shall I share my screen, or do you want to share yours, Joss?
I'll share mine. That's absolutely fine. I'll just put it up there.
Thank you. Okay, that's great. Thanks, Joss. Yeah, so we thought it'd be interesting to do some research on some change management challenges that organisations face. And we came across this list that's been published by ProSci. And they've identified 5 main challenges. So they've identified the top 5 as being lack of executive support and active sponsorship, inadequate change management buy-in and resourcing, resistance and lack of support for the specific solution, change-resistant culture and organisational structure, and change saturation and lack of prioritisation. So we were wondering whether any of you can relate to this list, so whether you've experienced any of these challenges. So it would be great if you could kind of put your hands up, share your thoughts, or type in the chat, and whether any of these have surprised you or shocked you, or whether you agree or disagree with any of these.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sophie. So yeah, we'd really appreciate obviously your thoughts and opinions on this. Fantastic to see some comments coming in already. Yep, agree with them all. Perfect, all 5. Can relate to the lack of resource. Yep. So I think resoundingly, I think this is how they've managed to get to this short list of 5, based on the vast amounts of research that ProSci have done. They are probably the most common challenges that we come across. The key is, if we're all aware of them, what are we trying to do to kind of break those barriers and those challenges down? I'm just trying to see if there's one of those that I would put top of the list. But I think, yeah, ultimately, if you've got that lack of kind of buy-in and support from the top, then you're always going to kind of hit doors and walls when you're trying to do things. Yeah, Laura, thank you. You've agreed. SRO, agree with all of them. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So we have got a decent number of people on the call today, which is fantastic. So I think what we wanted to do was try and break you off into smaller groups, just so we can have kind of conversations in a more tight-knit kind of personal level, rather than just kind of throw it open in this wider forum. So I'll see how many people we've got in total, and then we can kind of just break you off into some breakout rooms. So bear with me a second, just do a little bit of maths to work it out, and then we'll probably end up joining you in one of those rooms as well.
41.
41, okay. Let's go for 10. Okay, super, that's already done. So you should be automatically assigned into a room, and hopefully there will be approximately 4 people per room. So once we've opened the rooms and you've all been kind of sent in there in the nicest possible way, if between yourselves, if you could identify one person who could kindly feedback when we all join the group together again. But please do have those conversations. Relate back to the slide we've just seen with the most common challenges. What are those challenges and you know, the brick walls? What are the walls that you're kind of keep hitting yourself against in your organisation when you're trying to apply change management to the work that you're doing, or really embedding that change? And basically, we want to be able to learn from each other, and as I say, there may be opportunities to kind of offer up solutions or any advice that colleagues can offer us who have been there and done it. So I'm going to start those. We'll probably give you have a good chunk of time in there, I think. It's approximately 20 minutes, I think. And then I'll bring everybody back, and then we'll go around kind of each of the rooms, and then if you can just feedback maybe your top one or two challenges that you've come across, and whether or not you did have any solutions or advice to those. It doesn't matter if not, you may just have a list of challenges, which is fair enough. This is what the wider group are here to help you with, hopefully. So yeah, I'll open up them now and we'll see you soon.
Support behind them, kind of forcing them into the spotlight a bit. Not sure if that helps, but I found that really worked for us in this instance.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear. Thank you. Obviously, I'm sure some people are in a position whereby they'll just try anything because whatever they've tried to date hasn't worked. So yeah, no, it's great to hear what other people are doing. So thank you for that. Okie doke. Moving on to room 3. Do people remember if they were in that room? We've got, let's have a look. Selma, Helen, Madoop and Julie.
Looks like no one else is going to put their hand up, doesn't it? We were only 3 of us in the end, and we focused on a challenge. I think that is fairly common in lots of areas, in that there is no time to even look at what the problem is. There's a feeling that something needs to change, but without senior sponsorship and with everyone's noses to the grindstone, it's very difficult to know what that actually even is. So I think we came to the conclusion that number 1 is still the most important on that top 5 list, because without that you're going nowhere. But then how do you get that? That was certainly a big challenge in terms of when people are under such pressure to deliver. So the service is all that matters, and in the end, you know, in the NHS, it's the patient that's the only thing that matters. So when that service pressure is clinical, then it's very, very difficult to step away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're seeing kind of a theme emerge just from the feedback we've received so far in these breakout rooms. So we'll mention the community practice after we've had this feedback, but potentially we can utilise that to continue these conversations. So thank you, Julie. That's much appreciated. Room 4, I think, Laura, are you happy to share your current challenge?
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Campbell. I'm a Programme Manager in the Service Design Hub up in NSS in Scotland. So I think I kind of ended up in a room of my own with Sophie and Jocelyn, just listening to me. So I guess I, resonate with everything that Guy, Victoria and Megan have said so far in their feedback. And really, I think it is, so my team sort of specialise in that diagnostic piece up front to understand what the problem is before we can get people going. And one of the big pieces we've been doing is around readiness for change. So we've implemented new steps around change readiness assessments, culture assessments with leadership and OD, because we've seen quite fragmented leadership teams, particularly over the last 18 months. It's sort of particularly those extremely pressured on the front end delivery of COVID. There's been a real heads down, bums up, excessive amounts of overtime to get the day job done. There's a feeling that they want change, but they often don't have a shared vision or a shared goal of what the end is in mind. So we've been taking them sort of back to basics and trying to look at that readiness, agree what the end in mind is before they press the go button. And in some cases, we've had to sort of say, you're not ready yet. You need to get your operational stuff in order before you can look at any bigger changes. And that's been really hard for them to swallow, really hard to swallow. Unpopular message, but if the basic KPIs aren't being met and the service is stretched, it's not the time to add additional pressure, has been our view over the last period.
Excellent, thank you. I think there's been a couple of comments from people who agree, who are familiar with that same challenge. So you're not alone, which can be quite comforting. Thank you for that. Room 5. So we've got Jacqueline, Sonia, and Tina.
Hello, I think I'll report from that group.
Thank you.
So we had the three of us quite different projects we were working on. So whilst I work at a general hospital in Northampton, my projects are operational within the hospital at the moment. The other two were working on, one was a big estates change and one was a big IT change. So we had different challenges at the moment. But I think what was the quite a big part of our conversation was about change, and managing change didn't necessarily be explicit within our roles and within our organisation who might do it. And so there was perhaps some learning for us in our group around that. And whilst we might have had project management tools in our organisation, we didn't have change tools. So there was conversation that the change in the communication should happen with the project managers, or it should happen with IT, or it should happen with communications. But it wasn't necessarily something that was clear who was responsible within our group. So I think with the other two people, they were managing a much more of a cultural change than I was. So I think that is much more in terms of the engaging people, what was their challenges, and I hope they'll come in and say some more if I haven't covered that fully enough. Whereas for me, with operational changes in a hospital, especially right now, the changes we're making have been something that the operational areas really want, but simply don't have the resource to support. So for example, I'm working in heart failure, and if we're having a heart failure meeting about the new service we're setting up, whilst a patient turns up in A&E with heart failure, my meeting is not the top priority. And this is commonly a challenge with operational things right now. So that really sums up, I think, my area, the operational challenges and the engagement challenges with the more cultural projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very detailed. And as you rightly say, there are so many different types of change, which is managed in different ways in different organisations. I guess ultimately we have to use what suits and what fits within our organisational policies, and ultimately what resource is available, which sometimes is none. So we find people wearing, those dual hats and dual roles. So it's kind of a half-hearted effort, if you like. So nobody's fully invested in that change role to make that happen, and that can be a little bit frustrating or disappointing sometimes, I'd probably say. Thank you for that, Tina. Room 6. So we've got Arlene, Robert, Donald, and James. So as we move through these rooms, we'll probably get to a stage where you'll be like, agree with everything already said. So that's absolutely fine. But yeah.
You've stolen the words right out of my mouth there, Joss. Yes, I would completely agree with everything that's been said. So we had an interesting discussion in room 6. There was only 3 of us, 2 of my colleagues from NHS Digital and myself. we had a very interesting discussion about the 5 points that were raised in your slide, and we completely agree with all of them. For me, I think the big challenge is the first one, the active and engaged sponsorship. And we probably all can recognise that projects and change initiatives that we have named sponsors. There is a considerable difference between having a named sponsor and somebody who is actively engaged with delivering the project and the change resulting from that project. All too often, I think our sponsors are there in name only. They're there to chair project boards. They're there to represent the project at executive team meetings. But how often do you see them actually out on the front line, talking to frontline teams, talking to them about what the change means, talking about why we're delivering the change, what the challenges of delivering that change are, and getting feedback. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Now, I recognise that in the current environment, executive directors, often tends to be executive directors or senior clinicians, have pressured jobs. But I think one of the key things is when you find out that you're on a project and you have a sponsor, is to get that early meeting with them, spell out what you need from them to do in terms of that role of being an active and engaged sponsor, and really get that sort of contract with them. And I use the word contract in very loose terms, in inverted commas, that contract with them about what you can expect from them, what they will deliver for the project, and what you will deliver as the project or change manager. Mm-hmm. The other area we focused on was about stakeholder engagement, because we think that's equally important. It's not just having that sponsor role, it's making sure that you have that coalition of people from the various functional and operational clinical teams that need to be there to help support the change and to drive the change through. And the last point really was that often when projects are initiated, it tends to be all focused on the project management side of things in the initial stages. We see an awful lot of that, what ProSci call the technical side of change, coming out at the beginning. And it's usually some way into the project that people start to realise there's actually a people side to change. Mm-hmm. And so you often find that change managers or change management is brought in midway through the project, once lots of the issues that could have been resolved early on have got a head of steam behind them, built up and become more of a challenge. The guys from NHS Digital said they're often brought in partway through projects where a lot of those issues have caused problems for them. They have to rapidly get up to speed quite quickly and then try and resolve those challenges. So it's something that they see in their projects quite a lot. But those are the areas we thought were interesting.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Robert. Yeah, you just reminded me of the research that ProSci did actually into the whole kind of sponsorship and the role of a sponsor. Yeah. They abbreviated down to ABC. Yes. It's been an active and visible sponsor, being able to build that coalition and also communicate. Yeah. So I think there are the three key points. That's lovely. Thank you very much. Moving on to room 7. You got Maggie, Cassandra, Catherine, and Ulrika.
I was in that and I was hoping Catherine was still here because I think she made all the notes. I'm good at talking and not necessarily the best at making notes.
I covered some. Hi, this is Reka. So, Cassandra, do you want to start and then I can chip in, or do you want me to?
I can. I mean, really, I started it in regards to moving into technology. How with the NHS, it's all moving with going from home, and a lot of people, they'll see change, and especially with that, they're reluctant and it's straight away worried about their jobs. And it's trying to get across why we're doing the change. Mm-hmm. And also training does come into it. I think that plays a part, because you have a lot of people that, they've been in an organisation for many a year and they've not used any sort of type of technology, even just Teams, of using Teams, and they've not been given. It's like, there you go, get on with it. This is what other people get told. This is the change. This is why it's happening. And I think that played a big part in it as well in our conversation. Mm-hmm. Shall I let you carry on with the rest of it?
Okay. Yeah, so the other thing we talked about, which Laura and Tina kind of touched on as well, is engaging with the frontline staff. They do want to take part in the digital projects, but it's the day job. They're really rushed off the feet, especially the last 2 years. We've seen that with COVID, and also winter pressures. Sometimes they want to engage, but it's getting the time to take part in the projects, and how we kind of try to help that, and some of the things we talked about was short videos and things, so they can like dip in and have a look at the training. So those were the kind of main things we covered. Thanks.
Lovely, thank you very much both. Yeah, I guess anyway, sometimes it comes back to that prioritisation, and somebody from the top being able to make those decisions as to is there anything that we can stop so that we can prioritise this particular piece of work or change. And then again, providing those people involved with sufficient time to undertake the training, as Cassandra said, which is essential, especially if they've never done it before. So it's all those considerations. So that's lovely, thank you. Room 8. Got Susan, Sue. Doesn't matter. People might have left. Might have all been agreed. I'm just conscious of the time. If nobody does want to come forward from room 8, or if you do jump in and stop me, otherwise we'll move to room 9. So we've got is it Trissel, Santa, Helen, Simon? Anybody? Somebody speak to me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jocelyn. What we covered was we agreed with all the 5 points that were brought up in the presentation, and we also spoke a bit about cultural change as well as change from SROs and leadership, basically. Very, very much what everyone has contributed to the discussion.
No problem at all. Perfect. Thank you very much. And last room, number 10.
Hi everyone, you got Johanna here. So it was a group of 2. Me and Lee got partnered up to have our discussions, and I think in the main, just like everyone's pointed out, going through the 5 challenges, I think we were all like, yes, they all interlink with each other. There's a point that kind of came out through our conversation was funding. Especially in terms of dealing with the change and trying to have that strategical overview of, well, how saturated are we with our change? I think when you look at the lens by a project or a program, it's very easy to map out. But when you have a very large portfolio, whilst you may have visibility of the change, I think prioritizing that change is a bit more political, if I could say that. I think the point around SROs, senior engagement, was something that I pondered on a lot. But conscious of the time, I'll stop there.
Lovely, that's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, to be honest, this hour has flown by. I know we've managed to kind of cover every room there, and a lot of challenges, and it's nice in a way, if I can say, that people agree with those top challenges, that we are kind of on the same lines, same page, that we all have those same problems. So I'd like to kind of just briefly mention the online community of practice. So anybody who didn't see session number 1, we covered it very, very briefly. So the healthcare project delivery community, which is on the Knowledge Hub platform. Now this is for all people related to project and change professionals, or those with just an interest. You're all welcome to join. It's free to do so. We'll share the sign up link. It's just a really straightforward brief online form, just to pop your name, email address, that sort of thing in. Now within the community we do have 7 specific interest groups, one of which is a change management group. And what I'd like to suggest is that we can kind of continue some of these conversations within that group, especially now we've kind of identified those challenges, then working on, well, have we got any suggestions, ideas, on how we go about kind of trying to break some of those down and ultimately eliminate those. So if we can get obviously people together, you know, you can drop in at any point into the community and contribute to those conversations. It's up there 24/7. I think that'd be really great. And then there's loads of resources in there. If you can contribute to the poll that's on the front, just to kind of tease out what you might want. If there are other things that you can get from the membership of that group and the overarching community, we'd love to hear from you. And just a last call out, if you're interested in becoming a facilitator in the community of practice, we're always looking for people to help support the community and any particular group in there as well. It's not a full-time job, and people do as and what they can, dependent upon their roles and their own capacity. So I think it's great experience for people, something to add to the CV. I mean, you know, we try and have fun doing it, you know, meeting a lot of people, and ultimately being able to improve what you do, and growing and learning in your own role as well, personally and professionally. So coming to the end, I would like to say a big thank you for everybody today for all your contributions. I think it's been a really valuable session. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed meeting each other as well. And I look forward to connecting with you online so we can continue and working together to ultimately deliver successful projects and programmes. So thank you very much. Next session is at 1:30, and that's back on the platform with a key speaker, Melanie Franklin. So it should be a really good one, one not to be missed. So I'll leave that with you. Thank you very much. Lovely to meet you all, and I hope to speak to you soon.